My name is Julian Martinez, and I'm creating this video in order to help really Solidity coding beginners like myself in order to help them reduce the friction between them being able to use the remix tool. As a coding noob, when I tried to use the remix tool because it allowed me to apply concepts that I learned on the Cripple Zombies curriculum more dynamically and also to test these functions that I made. But when I started using it, there was a couple really difficult things I had understanding. So for instance, at the beginning, I'd write all sorts of code, I'd press compile, and absolutely nothing was happening, and I didn't understand why. So the first barrier, if you encounter that, is just setting up your environment. So that's basically where when you deploy your smart contracts, where exactly are they going to live? You can do injected Web3, and if you do that, you got to set up MetaMask. You can do that on the Robston test network or the Ethereum mainnet. But being that I'm a super noob and I just want to have these contracts deployed locally on my computer so I can test them, select JavaScript VM, very low friction. So now let me go back to over here. Being that I set up my environment correctly, it will allow me to compile. There's a bunch of different versions right now, but let's just use 0.4.25. The Crypto Zombies curriculum, the latest versions are using that right now, so I'm going to trust that version. So here it compiles because it gave you some static warnings. And now I'm going to deploy my smart contract locally, the Dino Fighter smart contract. So here, now this is what I wanted. So it's successfully deployed. I press this little arrow, and now I have access to all the functions I created in the smart contract. But now this is getting me ready for the next stage, and the next stage is for me to call these functions to see if it works correctly. Now, in this case, what I want to test for is, so right here, I have some code where you fight the dinosaurs, and after that, different attributes of the structure of the dinosaur uh, change. So for instance, their ready time or their level or their status. Their status should be king or loser, right? And the level just goes up every time you win. So I just want to see, hey, do these functions work? So now I'm going to go over here to this user, and I'm going to create a dino. This function just takes two parameters, two strings. So I called it. Let's see if it was successful. So after you call a function, you can look over here and see what went on, if there was an error. Everything looks good here. It successfully called it. I go over here to dinos, and it stores the dinosaurs by index location. So I see that it successfully created, at least that function seems to be working okay for now. So now let's switch user. I'm switching user. So I'm an entirely different person right now. It's also a really nice function or a nice feature of Remix. So Velonica is going to be this new user's dinosaur, and it's going to be red. I call the new function. Once again, looking good so far, looking good so far. But now I'm after blood. I want to fight these dinos. So over here, you fight them by ID number. So, or there, I set the ID numbers basically by index location. That's how I knew that those numbers would work. And boom, I fought the dinos. My dinosaur won. Now let's check if the things within that struct were modified the way I wanted to. Oh, that one's Velonica. So mine is this one. There we go. So I won. I'm king. I successfully upgraded a level. Everything acted as I thought it would. So now that's basically it for this tutorial. It was just to basically show you how I use Remix and how I use it to test practice writing smart contracts and testing them in more dynamic situations.